Today we're chatting with Amy Lynn Green about the novel Things We Didn't Say. Welcome to the program, Amy.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Happy to be here.
I, I couldn't come up with questions for today. However, I found a series of letters, um, and my understanding is there's questions in the letters that I'm going to ask you. I hope that's okay.
Let's open them up.
All right. So the first question here, it's in this really weathered envelope. Um, is this your first novel?
It is. Yes, I've written some books for children. I've also written some articles and short plays, but first novel for adults.
And what was that process like, besides being probably a little terrifying, but what was that process, realizing that you needed a much longer story than you might have for a children's book or even a short play?
Yeah. Well, as you may have guessed from the fact that the letters contain all the questions, this book is epistolary. So it's written entirely in letters and newspapers and other documents. And so actually it felt pretty easy because I write a lot of letters to people. And so I was just writing letters from people who weren't me. And so breaking it up into small chunks like that actually made it pretty manageable to get to the length of the whole 100,000 words.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, and that is roughly how much a novel is? Is it one?
This one is a long one. So sometimes they're 80,000. Mine edged more toward the 100,000 one.
Well, I'm sure it's worth the extra 20,000.
Well, thank you.
Now, this takes place in Minnesota, World War II German POW camp. How much research did you need to do into a POW camp in the United States? I think we're all used to seeing movies where the POW camps are the soldiers that are in Germany or somewhere in Europe. We're a little less familiar with the POW camps that were in North America.
Sure. Yeah, I was surprised to find that there were camps all over North America and Canada too, because England couldn't take all of the prisoners of war. And so they sent them over to the US and Canada because we needed workers in the fields for all the soldiers who had gone to fight in the war. And so as far as the amount of research, it was a lot, Martin, like so many. Thankfully, the Iowa Prisoner of War Museum in Algona had a ton of resources on all of the Midwest camps, including all the camps in Minnesota. And I actually got to talk to the director there, and he was a kid when prisoners of war were working on his dad's farm. And so he had a personal connection. He told me personal stories, and he let me look through all of the letters from the prisoners of war that they had there, took me through all the displays, and gave me copies of every single newspaper article and camp map and regulation and all of the documents, the first-person documents that they used in all of the Minnesota prisoner of war camps on a little flash drive. So I had everything I could possibly need right in front of me.
Now, your lead character is also a translator, and through this process, there's a lot of tension in her world. Describe a bit about that character and what it would have been like to have been a translator, taking these letters and translating them.
Yeah, so Johanna Berglund is a translator at the camp for the tensions between the prisoners and the guards at the camp. She'll do a lot of the translating there, and she translates and censors their letters home to make sure nobody's feeding secret information back to Germany or vice versa. Fascinating character to write. She's just hilarious. She says what she thinks, and she doesn't have very much tact. So it's really fun to write her character, and interesting to put myself in her place, because as she interacts so much with the prisoner of war, she comes to see their humanity, whereas everyone else in the town is seeing them as hated enemies. She sees them as people, and she gets very upset when the town does certain things that she feels like would be unfair treatment of the prisoners of war. So she's kind of riding the line between both, I love my country, I know that we're fighting these Germans overseas, but these people are humans too, and we should be loving our neighbors, and what does that look like?
Well, it sounds like a fascinating read. Looking forward to when it comes out. Will it be available as a paperback and in letter form?
Well, mostly just as a paperback, unless you
Okay.
want to tear out the pages and mail them to someone, which I don't know if I can condone destroying books. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I did want to perforate the pages or something for everyone. So that's
that seems like a good plan. Let's try that.
quite well, thank you, Amy, for chatting with us today about things we didn't say. We truly appreciate your time.
Absolutely. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing it.